What's up everybody, and welcome to a lazy Sunday. It's a rainy day, so perfect time to do the first oil change in my newly purchased Yamaha R6. So this is the 2007 model year, so this oil change should be pretty much the exact same for an 06 to 2016, and then I'm sure other years would be pretty much the same. First thing on the list, you're going to use a 4mm Allen wrench to remove the fairing of the vehicle on the left side. And now with all the bolts out, the blue one, I should be able to slide it forward and then remove it. So that's out, and that black thing that popped out is a push pin in the top. So you should take that out first. That'd be a good recommendation. Next up, this lower gray section, we want to loosen it to where we get some access right around this area, which is where the actual drain plug will be. And of course, before you begin, you want to have this type of stand to hold the rear of the vehicle. That way the bike's not going to be leaning. So now to get this gray one off, I'm going to just carefully turn the wheel, make sure nothing slides. And now using the same Allen wrench, I'm going to be removing this bolt right down here. Next up, it is right here for another bolt. Number 3 is right here. And then another one is right here, so your kickstand will have to be down to get this one. And lastly, you got one right under here, so you got to get it right from the bottom portion of it. And just be careful, you don't want to bend the plastic too much. There we go. And to look at all the hardware we have 3 of them that are the little bit bigger ones, and then we got 6 that are the smaller ones. So that way you can just keep track, and then the 1 plastic push pin. And to make it easier and to save time, we're not taking this whole gray out, but if you bend this down a little bit, right here is where your drain plug is going to be. So next up, I'm going to let the bike run a little bit just to warm it up, and that way all the oil can loosen up a little bit, and then we'll get that off. So next up, to actually drain it, we're going to take a piece of aluminum foil about 1 foot by half a foot, and it's going to go right on this rubber pad right here, right next to the actual drain plug, because depending on your oil pan, it might leak. So at least with this sitting like that, when it's draining out, it'll hit the foil and then go down into the pan rather than go everywhere else. There we go. Alright, so now the bolt is out. Obviously it is draining. Foil's doing a good job so far. You can kind of see it in there. Basically that silver right there is what we're looking at. It's right at the bottom of that. Now, while we let that drain, we'll go and check out what we got. So I picked up some Valvoline 10W40. So this is what it's recommended, and my brother's CBR. Same oil, so full synthetic of course. And then for the oil filter, I actually have a Yamaha brand one. So now to take the oil filter off, which is right here, we gotta disconnect the shifter linkage right up top. Just gonna use the 10mm to loosen this up a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this bolt completely out. That seems like that will be the only way to actually get this all the way off. Yep. So before it was actually kind of getting stuck. So now, shift linkage is completely off. Oil filter's right here. Alright, so we've been working on the oil filter, which honestly has been a big pain in the butt. It is completely ruined the way we've been taking it off. Whoever did it on last was an idiot. So now we got it off, of course. Next time around I will definitely use a K&N oil filter because it has the bolt on it. But looking at the new Yamaha one, the Lotus Evora tool actually fits perfectly. So if you have a Toyota Camry or a Lotus, buy that tool, and I'll show that in just a second. But we finally got this stupid thing off, and it is draining. I have aluminum foil on the exhaust just to help. And I did go ahead, if you look up here, I took off the chain guard, which is just 3 different bolts. And then there's a plastic piece in here that pops off. So here is the plastic part. This is just like a chain guide heat shield for the kickstand and electronics. Just cleaning up some oil. So that piece was in there, and then the chain guard, which is right there. So anyway, that's coming off. And then here is the tool that we're going to use next time around. But of course, after I use this oil filter, I will use the K&N. But that fits nice and snug on it. So at first, since there's very minimal, you don't have a lot of room, I was just using this type of tool to kind of pinch it and turn it a little bit, but it was just on way too tight. So now we'll take a quick look at it. That's how chewed up we had to do to get it off. So that was not fun, but that'll be easier next time. So everything's drained, it's barely dripping now. We'll go ahead and remove the aluminum foil. Just get that out of the way. Then just take some paper towels or tissues and just clean up where the actual bolt goes, just to get any remaining stuff off of there. Check the exhaust because it's right there, just to make sure there's no drips on it. Don't need to crank it too tight, but of course you want it pretty snug. So now with the new oil filter, it actually already does have some grease on it, so we're good to go, but normally you would take a little bit of your fresh new oil and just grease up the rubber seal. So I've already cleaned up the whole area. That's what the oil filter spot looks like. Just go ahead, pop the new one right on. Just kind of as tight as you can go with your hands is about all you need. And there's just a little bracket here where the sensor is, where this just pops right on. And lastly, I'll go ahead and do the chain guide. It goes right back in place. And with the chain guard on, we'll put the shifter linkage back on, and you can move this during the whole process to make it a little bit easier. So there's that line that's kind of cut into the metal, and we'll put the bolt back in, and I'll go ahead and tighten that back up. And now that the new oil filter and drain plug is back in, we're just going to take the funnel and the oil. This calls for 2.6 liters of oil, since I did do the oil filter. So I'm just going to go ahead and put about 2.5 quarts in for starters, let the bike run for a little bit, and then check the dipstick. So I just put this one all back together, the bolt down there, here, right behind the kickstand, the one on the underside and the back, and then of course this one right here. Now I'm going to work on this plastic piece. This will just slide back in place, line up the tabs down here. Alright, and then we'll take that plastic tab, which I didn't know about in the beginning, and we will pop that guy right back in place. And then just 4 bolts for the blue plastic. So after putting about 2.5 quarts in the bike, we let it run for a little bit, put the plastics back on. I put a little bit more in, and now the dipstick it is at like 90% all the way up the little marks. So that is pretty good. So that is the right amount of oil, and then basically we're about a cup shy of a full 3 quarts. So that is about how much oil you'll need, and the bike should be good. Of course, I'll monitor it, ride a little bit, check the dipstick again, and then may or may not add oil, but I think it should be good the way it is. So that's how you change the oil on a 2007 Yamaha R6. Not too bad of a process. Basically, you're only dealing with the left side of the bike, just taking the blue fairing off, and then just bending out the gray ones a little bit. Then you have the oil filter, of course, and the drain plug. And then over on the right side of the bike, we have your dipstick and the actual fill, just right there, and dipstick is down there. But overall, not too bad of a process. I would recommend a better oil filter than the stock one, just to make it a little bit easier. So for all you R6 owners out there, that is how you change your oil. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more videos. We'll see you all next video.